Come over to ZTRADEZ.net, check out our terms and conditions page. If you don't agree to our terms and conditions and the disclaimer, don't watch the video. If you do, feel free to join the community in the description below, as well as the newsletter. Let's go ahead and jump into things. This has been wild. You know, during the day when we had that dump, because job numbers came out good, which means that's less chance of a cut, they're going to cut. The market dumped. If the job numbers were going to be bad, that was going to be better because they could do even up to a half-point cut. The more bearish we are, the more bullish I am. Example, COVID supply chains were shut down, and look at how hard we were tearing. Let's get off the toxic daily. It's like on a higher time frame, it's like the equivalent of a 1 minute to me. I like the weekly a lot. Let's go ahead and jump into this. 20 EMA. We tagged it perfectly, respected it, blew through the volume shelf at like it didn't exist, but it was coming from not far off it. So of course that's going to happen, and that volume isn't that thick there. It's very light. All of this is light air volume until we fill that. If we do fill that gap down here around 571, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. Could. It could. We could have a repeat of 2018, right? If y'all remember November and December of 2018. 20 EMA bounce. This is what I don't like. Body higher, outside bar. I mean, that is bad. That is really bad. And this is not a 1, 2, 3. That is awful. It did respect the 20 EMA. Will it continue to do so? I don't know. We just had news out. They said they've tried everything. Nvidia had fantastic earnings. That did nothing. That makes up 4% of the market. We'll talk about what's propping it up. Then they're like, okay, Nvidia can start trading with China again. Quick little pop. I nailed it, and it sucked back hard. That didn't work. Okay, Xi and Orange Man, tariffs aren't happening. Well, the market's closed, but we're looking at Bitcoin, which usually will react. Nothing. So, you know, an extreme version of this was during COVID when, and I'm going to get to the other chart, I'll make it quick, when they were injecting liquidity into the market and cutting rates, and the market just kept dropping. It was getting scary, very scary. They're trying what they can do here, although this is mild. Nothing's working at all. And we had a decent day yesterday, as predicted. But, you know, the way things are trading, it worries me. I think Google, Amazon, and Apple are doing all right. Google, not so much. Amazon's doing well, somewhat. Apple's propping everything up. Apple goes, say sayonara to everything. Apple's carrying this market right now. Carrying it. Let's just start going over the watch list so I don't get off track here. So we started off with SPY. I wrote SPY right on the 50. That's a 20, right on the 20. But hold up, we've got bigger issues. Wait, let's go back over to SPY. We blew past the volume shelf. It didn't exist. I shouldn't put that in there because it was very close to it. Here's one thing I didn't cover. We have major short-term and long-term bearish divergence. Long-term, short-term right here and right here. Right there. We went higher and we were lower. Last but not least, bear cross on MACD. Weekly, not even a daily, a weekly. Kind of like we did over in here. Somewhere over here. This isn't a good example, though. That's not a good example. We got to find one with a hard bounce. We're not gonna waste time doing that. Let's keep moving. Nvidia, head and shoulders. I shouldn't have announced. I used some of the day trading money to announce a. Let's turn the linear chart off to announce a swing here. It is holding the 20. Everything's holding the 20. Tesla, SPY, Nvidia. Another earnings beat. Like a really good one. Really good one. Uh-oh. Same thing down here as SPY. Let's check out the daily. You know, whenever I had announced that I was going to swing one of these, it was, it looked like we were going to close a hammer. It was all the way up here. And I was like, that's going to close a hammer. Nope. Change right at close. Sell off. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Not good. Look at this volume. I don't know what that is. I don't know what I had written there. Let's just go ahead and remove that. That is bad. That is really bad. Let's get off this and let's look at this again. Oh my gosh. That is so bad. That is so bad. Despite the earnings beat, I mean, the next stop would be like 144. We've got some fibs in the 150s, right around 153, I think it was. There's a fib. Let's see where the EMAs are. That's not happening. That's not happening. That's what it was. I posted that we were on the 100. That was one of the reasoning. We have 200 right there. I doubt it would pass that, but if it's going to be a repeat of 2018, that could happen. This is the weakest November we've had apparently in 17 years. I looked at data. I'm like, you sure about that? You sure you're not missing? Where is it? 2018, May, June, July, September, October, November. No, November wasn't that bad. December was horrible. Anyways, moving on. OKLO. I guess it was right. OKLO, daily. Some of these stocks that were hyperinflated right off the volume shelf right near the 200 EMA. And it closed a hammer. So look how bearish this was. Bearish divergence. Higher yet lower RSI. Left shoulder head, right shoulder. Confirmation break when this body was going to close the last 5 minutes below that body and the wick. Should have been in on that. The premiums were just too heavy. I didn't want to trade it. 100 EMA bounce, now 200 EMA bounce near it. Volume shelf. Would like to see it come down to that volume shelf, suck up, and even down here. And then this would be more realistic. You know, we open up and we go bear and bounce off that 73 and close on the 200. That would be something that I'd like. Let's all look at all the vapor ones that don't deserve to be where they're at. Rigetti not looking bad on the daily. Not looking bad. Hammer, that is a perfect hammer right off the 200 right there. Let's take a look at the weekly. Okay, Qubits had been posting this on my X. Look at that. Is that a dragonfly? That's pretty much a dragonfly doji, and it closed right on the 200 and volume shelf right there. We don't need RSI up for that or MACD. That's not telling us anything. Nothing's curling around. We know MACD is bearish. Keep your eyes on this. PT would be, where are we at? 20. My PT would be right around, would probably be the around 24 next week if we're going to keep going up. If it can dance down here all at once, but I don't want to sell more options, but I may. Keep in mind, look where this thing was. You know, I think people forget that and they invest long term, like up here. It's like, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? Stuff like this goes to vapor during a crash. I mean, it's like it has no floor. Okay. Iowa and Key, I wanted to pull that up. That's not telling me anything. Yeah, it closed a hammer, but on nothing. It's just hovering in space. Bull got me, but I'm okay. I'm only down 50 bucks, 50 cents per share, just about. It's not a big deal. So I can start selling CCs on it, and I'm good. 1, 2, 3 reversal. The reversal didn't happen, but the candle following it did. That is a reversal candle. I would have rather that closed green. Buyers were there for the first time, pushing this up off its bottom. They weren't there here. They were somewhat there. They were not there at all on that week. They were there. They're saying, I like this level. And I think it is due for a rebound here. Always keep your eyes on Snap. You know, she could come down in here, down around that 6 area again. I'll sell some 5 CSPs for 3 months out or something like that. Let's keep, remember I kept saying everything was on the 20? Let's take a look at that. There we are, inverted hammer, pretty much inverted hammer. You really don't want a wick, but it did it respect the 20, or is it closing below the 20 like it doesn't exist? It sucked up and respected it. If we're up on Monday, that could possibly be a thing. We could see upside again. Let's see if there's any gaps on the daily. There was a gap there, and it filled in one day and then yanked back. Oh, gosh, that daily looks horrible. That looks horrible. We filled that gap. We have a little gap right there to fill. We could, I had talked about on my previous video, we could see this volume shelf at some point. If the market wants to continue down, I see that happening. Look at this thin volume area due to that massive launch right there. In 3 days from 348 to, man, that is wild. So we've covered everything. Oh, Amazon. Right on trend. Look at that. They say it has to hit the trend line 3 times to qualify as a trend. Well, we're here and it respected it. So we'll see what happens with this. I knew Quantum called P's on this somewhere right here. I think it was somewhere in here. Who cares? I think it was right there. If he's still in that, did that pay out with that big gap right there? Look at that touch on that 20 and then earnings, and it shot up. So if we are going to go bull, I expect Amazon to do well here. Let's take a look at a weekly real quick. It's not telling me anything other than a 1, 2, 3. Consistent earnings beats, which that's probably going to just stay like that for a very long time. Look at that, $82 in 2022. So if you guys like this content, make sure to like and follow for more. I'm going to be sending in the newsletter as well as the SMS and in the free section, the equity section of ZTRADEZ, a small cap you do not want to miss.